All right. And I show that we are live. Hello, sisters in healthcare. I'm your host, Kim Schott, and I want to welcome you to another Thriving Practice Coaching webinar, the place where female health professionals come to hear the latest breakthroughs in health technology and clinical best practices to help you pivot to a virtual practice and transform the health of your community. This webinar is brought to you by GeneSnip DNA analysis and isotonics, the world's most advanced nutraceuticals to help you create a successful, integrative, functional, and lifestyle medicine practice. To learn more, please visit isotonics.com/SCHOTT. That's isotonics.com/SCHOTT. Now, this is day 2 of our new masterclass series on the 5 easy steps to building a profitable virtual practice. Here we are looking at really new models in medicine. If you're a healthcare practice, like most, you have an urgent need to reinvent your clinical business model and to develop specific strategies to achieve sustainable long-term growth. And we have a great turnout of healthcare professionals who are either listening to us on Facebook Live or over the Zoom webcast. Now, today's call, even though we had a little hiccup with Facebook Live, is the direct result of the questions we get from our clients in healthcare who are struggling to understand how to use marketing strategies to grow their virtual practice. So, no matter what field of medicine you're in, if you want to learn how to accelerate your online visibility and build better relationships, then you're in the right place. And before we go into the meat of the call, I just want to share with you another upcoming date for our next masterclass. Our next free webinar in this series is tomorrow, April the 1st, and that's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 4 p.m. Pacific. This is your chance as you're working through the Thriving Practice coaching system to write down all of your questions on what's stopping you in terms of getting more clients online, booking appointments online, online dispensaries, lab testing. Anything really that you're working on to build your virtual practice where you're just getting stopped and you want to post your questions in the Thriving Practice Sisterhood Facebook group, or you can just send your questions using the webinar invitation notice. Then show up for the webinar and I'll answer each and every question that is sent in to us. Please make sure you use this time to get help from me, okay? So great. Let's get started. Today, I'm so incredibly grateful for our guest, Miss Jaycee Mayers. She's joining us today on our day 2 of our masterclass series, and she's going to talk to you about re-engineering yourself and your practice for success. Janelle is a master facilitator and currently a PhD scholar. She's committed to bringing awareness to mental health and optimal human performance and has worked as a leading therapist and facilitator for the last 12 years. Miss Janelle is also a part-time lecturer at the Barbados Community College and the University of West Indies in the area of social work and psychology divisions. Additionally, she is a wellness coach and she owns and manages a CrossFit gym training elite athletes and seniors to optimize their performance. She also leads the team at Therapeutic Alliance Training, which provides workshops on personnel development, team building, and all topics related to mental health. She's also the chief heart operator of
Yep.
Grief Recovery Works and specializing in corporate grief training. Janelle, would you please say hello to everyone because it is an absolute delight. I'm glad that you're here this evening.
Hi, Miss Kim, and to the Sisterhood Tribe. I'm
Ah,
so happy to be here and excited to have a conversation with you guys.
I am so glad that you are joining us this evening. Janelle, why don't we, to begin, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey as well, because you have been on quite a journey.
Um, so I'll start with the latest development, which is I actually turned 40 this year, February the 20th.
Get out of
So
here.
yes, I did.
Congratulations.
And it's been quite an interesting road. So I'm actually a practicing marriage and family therapist based in the island of Barbados, but I don't necessarily use that name. Because of my experiences, I am more a mental health consultant because I'm really cemented and passionate about helping people choose the best mental health practitioners to suit their needs, because sometimes people go to the wrong people. And that comes off of the bat of when I was 27 years old, I actually lost my husband. I had a 4-week-old baby. I just had a baby. And my husband actually died as a result of having an asthma attack. He got sick. In 2 weeks, he was actually in the hospital, and he passed away subsequently 2 weeks later. And so that left me practicing family therapist in a drug rehab with a 6-week-old baby, and trying to navigate how I was going to live life on life's terms, because my
Right.
life, as you can imagine, went upside down. But I remember telling my mentor, who was the clinical director at that time, if I don't lose my mind in 6 months, I'm never going to lose my mind. And that kind of created a whole system for me to start thinking about how do I begin to heal and repair what was already broken in relation to the loss of dreams and losing my husband, but recognizing that there were still things that I need to do, aka be a parent, also continue my job as a therapist working in a residential facility. And ultimately, this is what, 13 years later, and I stand before you, re engineered, so excited to help so many other people walk through and heal after crisis, because life happens. You
Yes.
know, it
Yes.
happens. I always, people always be like, oh my gosh, how you handled like with losing your husband? I said, you know, today's my husband. People lose husbands every day. It just happens to be that you know me. But people are consistently losing things every single day, yet we're not having conversations about how we can thrive or pivot. And for me, I have a system where I call, you survive it, then you live life on life's terms. And once you've mastered living life on life terms, then you thrive. And so my 40th year is my thriving season. And I love, that's part of your practice as well too, helping professionals thrive in uncharted waters. But life has always been uncertain. It's just that it's a global uncertainty.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's a little bit about me.
That is, thank you. And yeah, I love it. Just thriving in your 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I that is fantastic. My goodness. And your son had a birthday recently
Yes,
too?
he turned 13. What, like, that was like the best thing ever, and the saddest thing ever too, because in every milestone there's an acknowledgement of loss. Sometimes when people are trying to get better, they never want things to go wrong.
Right.
And in the world that we're operating now, is like you have to be okay with understanding that joy comes with sadness. I've lived my life with that experience. I'm very sad that I had lost my husband, but at the same time, there was always joy and contentment that I had my son. And I've always been able to maneuver those two things and re-engineer those two things to the point where, we can be successful and not be like, oh my gosh, my life will never be the same. Once something happens, it's designed not to be the same, but it's what do you do with that information afterwards to help you pivot.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. And why this well, I think you had pointed out that the pivot, everyone has been doing a pivot to the best of their ability.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is the reason why I absolutely had to have you on our 5-day masterclass, because you not only have pivoted, but you've developed a system,
Yeah.
so that you understood that I'm pivoting, but I know what my course is. It's like you pivoted and developed a system to help you recalibrate your compass. Again, you didn't just
Definitely.
pivot and say, now I'm really lost.
Yeah.
You have developed, you pivoted and had a system in place beforehand, and you knew enough to put that system in place.
Mhm.
That's why, Miss Janelle, I had to have you on this masterclass.
Mhm.
So let me ask you this: why is it necessary to be aware of your re-engineering spirit, to have a thriving virtual practice? Why is that necessary?
So, one of the reasons I would say that it's necessary is that you always have to look at the ability to reevaluate and be able to readjust what your challenge and your crisis is.
Mm,
No, there are a lot of people that don't like the conversation that it's an opportunity for change or opportunity for growth, but that's literally what it's presenting to you, right?
yeah,
And it's our response to things. I always tell people, people are like, oh my gosh, life is so traumatic. I was like, no, you had a traumatic response to an event. It
right.
doesn't necessarily mean that it was a traumatic event for you, but the response was traumatic. So
Right.
when you can actually reevaluate and readjust the way in which you're seeing whatever challenge it is, you can actually begin re-engineering your practice.
Mm.
Because most people are coming to you not for your skill, but your ability to be empathic and nurturing to their guidance.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And your process of re-engineering your spirit and re-engineering the culture of
Mm-hmm.
your virtual practice
Mm-hmm.
really reminds me of a healthcare practice in Ridley Park,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. The name of that practice is Internists Associates.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Ridley Park. And they knew they needed to, during the COVID pandemic, to
Yeah.
completely reinvent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they used televisits,
Mm-hmm.
virtual check ins, digital education campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
online payment platforms to maintain continuity in their practice. I would say, actually, to maintain continuity in care throughout the COVID
Yes.
19
Yeah.
pandemic, while
Mm-hmm.
enhancing safety and meeting the expectations of their over 8,000 patients. Now,
Wow.
now
Yeah.
keep in mind that this pivot to telehealth or televisits didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Just like with you pivoting, that didn't just immediately happen overnight. You
Mm-hmm.
had enough foresight to understand, I know I have a purpose, I know I have a goal. I have to pivot, but I
Mm-hmm.
still at least know what my goal is. And they
Yes.
did too. And so
Mm-hmm.
for a long period of time, they had been observing, surveying, and
Mm-hmm.
listening to their patients' desires around
Definitely.
televisits and virtual practices.
Mm-hmm.
So their pivot didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And when the Pennsylvania residents were ordered to stay home and stay safe, like many of us are and still
Mm-hmm.
are. Matter of
Yes.
fact, I just received a news alert that regarding France
Mm-hmm.
experiencing another wave of shutdown right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this is still very real
Yeah.
here in the U.S. and other countries.
Mm-hmm.
But while they were ordered to stay home and stay safe, all the patients knew that things were going to change because the practice had enough had enough information by surveying those patients
Mm-hmm.
beforehand
Yeah.
years ago, so that when they had to pivot, they were able to let the patients know we have to change. The patients were expecting a change because everything had changed in healthcare
Mm-hmm.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But because this practice in Pennsylvania already re engineered themselves and their staff, it made it less traumatic for those patients to
Yeah.
embrace a
Definitely.
customized virtual education program. And I want to let our sisters in healthcare know, if you would like more information on how to re-engineer your practice to offer digital solutions for your patients or clients with love, then I definitely will offer a complimentary strategy session where we review your goals and
Yeah.
discuss solutions for your virtual
Mm-hmm.
practice. And I will email you about this free strategy session
Mm-hmm.
so we can pick a date and time that's convenient for
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
But because I have story after story, just like you do, Miss Janelle, about knowing when to pivot, how to pivot, but you pivot with a purpose.
Yeah.
You're not just simply change. And
Mhm.
what would you say is the most important area to start working on when you're creating awareness about your growth?
Vision. Where are you trying to grow? What's the overall vision and mission statement of your growth?
Mm.
I'm big. I got so big that I actually did a planner for 2021. This is my success with J Planner. And the first thing I ask people to do is to identify what their vision is. You know, and for me, my vision for coming into 2021 off of the bat of 2020 was being more visible in 2021 about mental health,
Mm.
all things mental health. So I actually put an entire calendar where once a month I actually have a free webinar that I give to people about mental health. And it was really cementing on what it is that I want to accomplish. And for people who are out there trying to figure out like what it is like, are you providing care for people who can't get out of the house and that you're the only one that there's a connection to? Is that your vision? Do you want to be in every single household, at least seeing one patient? Do you want to have a family telehealth practice that everybody comes to you and perhaps you can do all the visits? So it would be to have a large vision and then create a mission statement and then put the activities that you are requesting yourself to do as you move forward in 2021. But vision is definitely one.
You know, I like that. I like that you were very intentional on
Mm-hmm.
what your vision needed
Yep.
to be. It really
Yep.
did. That reminds me of a practice out of Alabama called Innova Primary Care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, similar to what I shared with you about the practice in Pennsylvania, they completely re engineered and reinvented themselves. And to give you really like a little bit of background on what their vision is and who they serve, 40% of their patients are over 50 years old.
Yep.
Okay. So they have a community that is somewhat comfortable with technology,
Yeah.
but they also have farmers and a lot of farmers and people that may not have regular interactions with the internet,
Mm-hmm.
let alone even Wi-Fi. You know, and
Yeah.
so it's something that they needed to write into their vision, which is, and they knew this before the COVID pandemic. They knew that they would have
Mm-hmm.
people that just did not have regular high speed internet at all. So
Mm-hmm.
a growth area for their vision was really how to best do away with clipboards altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of using onboarding and intake with clipboards, they knew before the pandemic hit that they wanted to do away with clipboards. They wanted to educate their patients, how to use an online platform or an online
Yeah.
portal, and also how they could use a proxy if they didn't have internet access.
Mm-hmm.
So a patient in this particular practice, Innova, they can have their child, they can have their grandchild in
Mm-hmm.
some cases, sign up, handle their electronic health records, handle their portal login, and that's how this practice created an awareness of their own growth and their patients' growth and the growth of the culture of their practice. But not only that, but they were able to expand that vision into the community because
Mm-hmm.
because of the rural area of this community just wasn't used to
Yeah.
having healthcare that was this digital, let
Mm-hmm.
alone a proxy
Yeah.
that could come in there. And so you see, Innova is is really responsible, empathetically responsible for their own patients' stories,
Yeah.
and they dealt with million,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even an infinite amount of patient stories, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really the heart of medicine, isn't
Mm-hmm.
it, Miss
Yeah.
Janelle?
Yes, it is our shared experiences.
your shared experiences. And that's why they went into healthcare in the first place, so that they could really learn a patient's story. And the clipboard doesn't capture the entire story like a recorded telehealth visit does, that is connected to an electronic health record system. So I like that you know you need a vision, and make sure that your vision expands beyond the what your current patients are capable of. This particular practice, their vision was so strong that they knew that they would possibly require a proxy to handle the electronic data information. Never would they have thought that their vision of using a proxy would absolutely need to be used now during the
Yeah,
COVID
it's true.
19 pandemic. But that was their vision, so that because they wanted to continue to be a part of their patients' stories
Yeah,
and
to
hear that.
serve them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything you want to add to that? Because I'm sure.
I think part of it, and I hear you reinforce it both instances, is that you also have to be aware of the type of work you were doing before that helps you into the pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I had pivoted completely in 2020 to online practice, I had been sharing mental health information for over 2 years.
Okay.
And so now my name was the name that everybody was going to because I had been speaking before.
Mm,
And it's so important to identify when you are already collecting opportunities for growth and using that as opportunities for your thriving practice.
mm-hmm.
And so there's one story I want to share. I remember I was asked to come and join a company, and I had done something for them free at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was asked to join the company, to come and help their staff work through it. And, I asked, what were you guys thinking in terms of charging? I was asking, what's your budget and stuff like that. And one person said, we didn't have a budget. And at that point, I said, I am not doing anything for free with regards to mental health unless I choose that to be. But everybody else will pay because now this is my level of expertise that you're doing that you're asking me to do. Because the whole thing was like, you could come in and you'll have referrals. And I said, no, I said, with this pandemic, this is not a referral conversation.
Right.
This is corporate mental health that you guys now have to get on board. And even though you may not have money for this, you have money for training. And from the time I stood my ground on that, my business has been flying. Because I'm like, no, I have done that free. I did all the legwork years before. COVID was not an opportunity for me to do the legwork. I had put that in before. So it's for people to be aware of how you have served before and now what your return of investment is for your servant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and my thing is I was unapologetic because I couldn't understand. I had already done something for them already. And here they were asking for more for something that was necessary to their business to thrive. And they didn't see it fit for it to be a financial obligation. And I said, there's nobody, I will choose when I will give rather than you assume that that's how I'm working.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good boundaries.
yeah,
Excellent
definitely.
boundaries there. Why is dealing with your trauma
Mhm.
key to your purpose in business? Why is that?
So I'll give a working definition for trauma. Trauma is anything that happened to you that you didn't want to happen to you, or anything that has not happened that you wish can happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so we're always experiencing some level of, I wish this didn't happen.
Right.
So there are a lot of people who are, I wish COVID didn't happen. If COVID didn't happen, I will still have a brick and mortar.
Right.
But it's important to know that because then it allows you to actually re-engineer your perspective on how it is either harming you or helping you.
Right.
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 So my experience of grief with my husband has laid the foundation for me to help people to live life after trauma and crisis.
Mm.
Without that, there will be no re-engineering you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so it's being able to authenticate your story with the skill level that you already had before or the skill level that you're now going to get. And people come to practitioners not because of their skill, but their ability to connect.
Mm.
You know?
Connect with their stories.
Exactly. So when an old lady who's 80 something walks in to your office and it's a brick and mortar and she decides to let you enter into her home at 80, it's the connectivity that she's still looking for.
Yes.
Because what people don't understand is that what's different is people are allowing us into their homes. They're allowing us into their spaces. So we're technically doing home visits.
Over
And
the
you can
internet.
get, yeah, and you can get a lot more information when somebody's more comfortable in their own space than you would have gotten, if they walked into your brick and mortar.
And that's so true. That really is. And that even goes back to what that other practice, having a vision for what they wanted to happen in the
Yeah.
future with their patients, but having the vision of allowing those aging patients to use a proxy so that they're still comfortable.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that they're still comfortable. It makes all the difference in the world.
Your trauma is just part of your story. It is not your story alone. It's part of it. And every client that's entering into the helping field, or every patient that's coming into the helping field, is experiencing some level of trauma, crisis,
Yes.
or challenge.
Yeah.
So if you can't identify with it, even at the smallest effort, then you lose patients. That's why patients don't come back, because they don't feel as if you really identify with what was happening. And said, well, doc, my toe hurts. And you're like, oh, you're told you'll be fine. But no, if I'm 70 something, I'm diabetic, my toe hurts. It's a big problem,
Yes.
So our ability to connect the dots for people is what allows us to have a thriving practice.
Right, right. And really having, because we're here not to have them sign on to another customized program. We're not here to have them sign up for another supplement. We're here to build a relationship with them.
Definitely. Definitely.
That's it. And I love how you're honoring their stories, even through the telehealth, the televisit. You're honoring their stories. When we work with professionals in their telehealth, their virtual practice, my team and I always like to explain that using different forms of content to share that story is very important. And like the other practices I pointed out, many of our clients surveyed their patients, and they continue to survey their patients, and they discover that patients will often prefer different forms of media for their education. There are a lot of patients that prefer video newsletters over written newsletters. They want a video.
Yeah.
And there are many patients that prefer podcasts too, instead of a written newsletter. So we worked with our clients to help them develop their message and to get really clear on that healing, nurturing message that supports their purpose.
Yeah.
Then we help them create a video series around it, a customized video series around it, which fits a customized program. Next, after they have that video series, next we show them how to transcribe the video series so that they can use it in different social media marketing platforms. And then finally, we had the audio created into a podcast. This way, every patient, regardless of their age, regardless of maybe some hearing challenges, visual challenges, no matter
Mhm.
what, that patient has information in the format that they most enjoy.
Mhm.
And I really discuss this more in my free strategy sessions with doctors, so that they know how to take one piece of quality content and then reuse it in multiple places. And I believe you're also doing the same thing as
Yeah,
well. Okay, do
definitely.
you want to share, because you are serving in different capacities in
Mhm.
Barbados?
Mhm.
You have, you've got your therapy practice, CrossFit. My goodness,
Mhm.
would you like to talk a little bit about, once you discover the custom program that you want to launch, how you're sharing that on different types of media platforms,
Mhm.
whether it's video, written, audio, and I'll let you finish that.
So the first thing for me is definitely having the consistency within the vision. And so the materials then become the information that keeps your clients engaged to what you are up to. It's funny how you explain that, because I was having conversations with doctors maybe 2, 3 years ago about the importance of putting videos, training videos in their waiting rooms for
Yes.
their clients. So when they come in and they're not sure about a procedure, it's already there. We do the magazines and all that stuff, but they're not coming in your office to read the latest Oprah magazine. They're coming in your office to do something, and can you educate them? So that's actually what I started to do. Like, do, can I educate people like why you need to go to a psychologist instead of a psychiatrist? And so I do it on IG Lives. I do like the same webinar series with the Zooms. And then I repurpose, as you said, I repurpose that information for people when they want to connect more.
Hmm.
And there's always going to be people who you want to have an educated client that allows you to give more opportunities for growth in how you're treating them. Like, and more information you give them doesn't make them the Google doctors. It makes them wise clients, patients that come in and say, listen, doc, I've been having heart problems for the last 3 months. I've been monitoring it. I've been monitoring it, and I now understand that it's directly connected to my cycle. But you know what? I have a root canal as well too. And I know the connection between my heart and my root canal. But that's from giving the information, right?
Right,
So
right.
I'm a firm believer of having consistent information. Use your mediums as a way to allow your clients to get to know you and what you stand for in your practice. And once you start to do that, it becomes a loop of, hey, I love when you were talking about menstrual health, or I love it when you were talking about this. And hey, I have a granddaughter that just started her menses, so I think you'll be the great person to see. And, I have a son who's experiencing this back pain. And so I found that using my material has allowed people to be more open in asking questions. And I'm never afraid to answer a question. I tell people all the time, slide in my DMs.
Hmm.
What makes it any different from answering a work email? Nothing.
Right, right.
Because it's the way somebody chooses to connect. What I tell people is have a set time for it. So if you know that you have people communicating you on IG, and IG, the first time I'm usually like a 6 o'clock morning IG person. So if I have messages, I'll do like the 8 to 9 for those messages. If I have email, I don't check my emails first thing in the morning. I take some time, then I check that. And I think it's having a structure, because with information also means that people are going to ask questions.
Yes.
So you got to be able to give the information, but you can also carve out time where you're doing administrative work when you share that information.
Right, because and you had mentioned quite a few social media
Mm-hmm.
platforms throughout your talk
Yeah.
tonight, but social media requires you to be social.
Yep, you have to be answer back, guys. Do not post something and never speak back to the person. Because they're like, what did you post with this automatic? And even if you have to do it at the end of the day, because people think that they have to do it as soon as, no, because if you were working in an office, you wouldn't have time to respond. So set out a time where you can respond wholeheartedly to individuals, or you can let them know. What I've started to do is actually do today, actually, funny enough, I'm doing a Q&A with Ask a Therapist. And I'm usually in my office on Wednesdays, and it's providing them with the opportunity to ask a therapist a question they never thought they could ask. And so now that's a live session where people can come on and ask questions. And it's only 15 minutes. It's literally between the time that I'm waiting to see my next client, but I'm literally scheduling it now. Because what it's going to provide people is the opportunity to choose between physically coming in the office or doing telehealth. Because there are certain people that will never be comfortable coming in the office, but will feel confident enough to have the conversation over the social media platform. And then because they're already asking questions, it's setting them up for success in your telehealth practice.
Yes, 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 absolutely. And and just to add to more of that, I let folks know that yes, social media requires you to be social, but when someone leaves a review, good or bad, you have to be social even with that. You
Yeah.
have to address it.
Mhm.
You have to thank them or address it. And I know that social media is an entirely different topic for another
Yes.
discussion beyond this one here, but you really did a great job emphasizing the importance of getting back with your audience
Yes.
and talking to them. Even
You
on
have
negative
to.
reviews, I
Yep.
let my doctors know, yes, you have to immediately
Yeah.
address that as if the person was standing in front of
Yeah.
you. If someone came to me and they were just not satisfied, or we just didn't meet their expectations. If
Yeah.
they were standing right in front of me, I would want to listen to their
Yeah.
story.
You
I want
wouldn't be
to,
like, get out.
yeah, or I wouldn't just sit there and ignore them.
Yep.
And that's what you're doing when somebody posts a positive review or a negative review. If you're not
Exactly.
answering that back, it's as if you've just completely ignored them.
Yeah. You've disconnected.
You've completely disconnected
Yeah.
from them. Exactly. But what I love that you're sharing here is the thing that allows you to stay connected. And I really want to drive this point home here. The thing that has allowed you to stay connected, whether they're there in your office or through a virtual practice environment, was your vision.
Yes.
It's your vision. You had enough time, and you continue to work on yourself and your vision.
Yeah.
And it's your vision that has allowed you to pivot yourself. And every single example that I used of from different practices, that was the same theme through their successful pivot to a virtual practice, is their vision was already in place. No one was prepared for this pandemic, but they had a vision enough to know that at some point they're going to need to have a digital option that is very, very convenient for people.
Definitely.
Now, I want to post a question in our Thriving Practice Sisterhood Facebook group so that I can get some feedback from our participants. And everyone who's listening, you'll see a masterclass journal prompt asking, complete this growth awareness thought. I wish I had paid more attention when ... And you can look for the hashtag day 2. So it's hashtag day 2. It'll say masterclass journal prompt. And Miss Janelle, what is one thing you wish you had paid more attention to when it comes to your personal growth?
One thing I wish I had paid attention to was taking action steps sooner.
Oh,
That is one thing that little tiny action steps when you need. So I've started to shift, I don't do a to-do list. I have I get to-do lists. And so the to-do list
I
is
love
always,
that.
it's always there. But the I get to do list means when I wake up in the morning and I get to serve 10 clients, I need to be present for them. I need to make sure that I send them off invoices. I need to make sure that they get the intake form and that I'm not waiting to do that. And that's my I wish. And so I do a lot more inspiration to action tasks right now.
Yes. Yes. For me, I wish I would have paid more attention to write down the revelations, the epiphanies, the aha moments that the
Yeah.
universe sends us. I wish I
Yeah.
would have paid more attention to that when I was younger,
Yeah.
which is now why I'm a huge advocate for carrying with me a notebook, a pad of
Yes.
paper. I've got a spiral brown pad of paper in my
Yeah.
car, my journal,
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Ideas hit you like
Yeah.
bricks.
Yeah. And if you don't write them down, life can get in the way and you're going to forget that. But I wish I would have paid more attention to my aha moments because life comes at you a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
And if you're not writing these things down, you're going to miss them. And that's why I'm a
Definitely.
huge advocate for take some time to journal about your vision. And I hope that everyone who had joined us, just grabs their journal right now and really starts working on the vision for their virtual practice, the vision for their patients.
Yep.
Look about, what is the vision that you want your patients to have about your practice culture? I think that's important. We need to start writing these down. Now, I also want to say that after reading what other sisters share in that journal prompt, you might even get inspired to take some action towards your own healing,
Definitely.
after listening to this webcast. And I know that I will be, I always look at everyone's journal prompts that they share because that's important to me. Um, Tell me from your community in Barbados, how are your sisters in healthcare taking inspired action for their own healing?
That's a very good question because it's twofold. I think there's some that are literally drowning because there's no break. Because we have a limited healthcare system, we've taken the approach where when somebody gets sick, they have to quarantine. And the government is responsible for the quarantine. So you have to go into actual facility. But I would say the ones who are not directly linked to that, the ones who are pivoting to telehealth, have really been very assertive in providing a service for the entire family and not just for the patient. Because there's a situation where now you cannot get into any facility unless you take a COVID test. And I don't know if that's the same over where you are.
In some areas,
But
yeah.
yeah. So it's now where the care is for everybody, whereas before the care was just for one particular, and we have a lot of kind of entities here. So it's very refreshing to see that people are willing to ask everybody that's within the home space,
Yeah.
how can we take care of you? And
Right.
I think once we're doing that and we continue to do that, people are going to stay connected to the helping professionals.
I agree with you. I thank you. Thank you so much. Miss Janelle, can you tell everyone again how they can stay in contact with you? I believe you're going to put some information in the
Yes.
journal prompt, something about a book.
Yes.
You go ahead. Let our sisters in healthcare know about your book and how they can stay in contact with you.
So this book is called These Three Words, and it's very interesting. It's called Explains the Basics of Using Three Words to Get You from Inspiration to Action. So I'm big on that to the point where I wrote a whole book in the pandemic.
No.
So this was written in the pandemic, and it has things like seize the moment, finish your assignment, journey with purpose. And it's really to help people pivot with just short statements, simply because when your brain is tired, you can't hear all the things that everybody's trying to tell you.
Right.
But if I tell you to write your vision, you, like we said, you'll go write your vision. Or if I say create purpose missions, you're gonna go do that. But if I say, you should really sit down and think about it, it's like I can't deal with this. So this book was kind of written out of that. Like, I am inspired to action. I no longer just want to be inspired by people's words. I want to be able to take tiny little action steps. So you can get this on my website, Jaycee Mayers, so JayceeMayers.com, and I'll post that
The
in
journal
the
prompts?
journal prompts as well too, if anybody's interested.
Yes.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I think the more we all continue to thrive with each other, we can all inspire each other to action as well too. And that's what's needed more than ever. This space is going to need leaders, healers, practitioners more than anything, when there's a shift in our response to the pandemic.
Absolutely. And what a better place for us to across, you know, across the internet to be able to lock arms and be a part of that shift together.
Definitely.
I thank you so much, Miss Janelle. I really do. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. I look forward to people looking at your book, looking at your Facebook groups. Take care, Miss Janelle. Take
Thank
care,
you so much,
sisters. I'm
Christine.
just sending everyone love right now. And
Be a heart with ears.
that's right. Exactly.
Yep.
Just remember, sisters, I love you. And remember, we are all in this together. Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye
Bye.
now.